Greetings and salutations to all those podcast listeners. This is episode what number, Terry?
Number 5.
Number
Yes.
5 in
Number
our
5.
Doctor Who podcast. And we're going to be talking about Flux, episode 5 as well.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think we've only got one more episode to go and that's finished. Doctor Who's over now till New Year.
That's right.
Which is only a month away, to be fair, or thereabouts. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're also going to be talking about a classic Doctor Who serial. Now, for the past 2 weeks, what Terry and I have assigned one another is watching an older episode of Who. It could be from, the beginning of the new series or a classic episode. And we started, I believe it was last week.
It was last week, yeah.
2 weeks, 2 episodes.
Episode 3 we did this for, yeah.
Right. 2 episodes from Russell T's first series.
Yep.
And then we were going to move forward with a David Tennant era episode.
Yeah.
But then both of us caught the teaser for this week's episode 5 of Flux. We caught a glimpse of Kate Lethbridge Stewart, and we thought, U.N.I.T is returning in some form or fashion. So we, I don't know whose bright idea it was. I think it was yours.
That was yours. It was yours.
Oh, well, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. No, I kind of, so we decided to watch a Pertwee instead. Now, I think this was a ploy by you, Sid, to watch a Pertwee no matter what, because that's your favorite era. So I knew where you were coming from.
Am I that transparent?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the fun part for each of us is trying to figure out which episode we have chosen. Now, Terry knows me probably too well because he nailed the first one from Russell T's first series just perfectly. It was Father's Day.
Yeah. Terry's.
And I totally missed Terry's.
Well, no, that said though, you did guess the Dr. Dance's one, because that was my original choice.
Okay.
Then I thought, no, let's go with something I don't watch or haven't watched for a while.
So we're going to be discussing our Pertwee selections, and we'll also be discussing, as we said before, episode 5 of Flux.
Yeah.
So would you like to begin?
Okay. Well, it kind of choosing or guessing which one you chose for Pertwee era is actually quite tricky because you love the era so much. So in many ways, the whole era for you is your favorite.
Right. Well,
but you did indicate you were looking at an earlier episode that you haven't.
Yeah, I was giving you a little hints very
often. So I'm thinking you watched Ambassadors of Death.
Yes.
Hey. Wow, this is quite freaky. So what did I watch then?
I haven't a flipping clue. No, we did both say that it should be a unit story.
Yes,
did we not say that?
We did say unit story, yes, because of Kate Lethbridge Stewart.
Right.
Now, I may have given you a clue in a little video I sent you on WhatsApp.
Oh gosh. Well, I watched that I watched that on my phone, so my eyesight is getting worse. So maybe I missed something.
Okay.
I'm just going to take a stab. I'm just going to throw it out. Mind of Evil.
No.
See?
The Three Doctors.
Oh, duh. Well, that was a rather obvious choice. Incidentally, what was a number of years ago? I came to visit and we watched the 5 Doctors. That was really fun.
I think that's really the last time I saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
Me as well.
Yeah.
So let's sit here and compare unit stories from 1973 and 1970. I think those are 2 entirely different tones.
Yes.
Completely different tones.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, shall I start? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Now, I chose the Three Doctors because it's kind of cozy and warm and it's familiar. So I kind of went the other way with the Boomtown choice last time, and I went with something that I know very, very well, and it's got Troughton in it, and it's got Hartnell in it, and it's got Benton's biggest input, I think, to a story. We actually travels in the TARDIS. The brig travels in the TARDIS. That great line from John Levine when he says, "Anything you do, Doc, doesn't surprise me." I just love that. Sums up Benton's opinion and appreciation of the Doctor. He just
Absolutely
follows him anywhere and thinks he's great and will just trust whatever he does. And the brig gets great lines as well, because he's completely disbelieving of what on earth is happening. He doesn't believe that he's gone off planet.
I'm fairly sure that's Cromer.
Absolutely, yes. It's a Norfolk beach. It's wonderful. And Stephen Thorne as Omega just chews that scenery, and seeing Pat Troughton back, it's a delight, and it really is a delightful program. Apart from possibly the gel guards, which are a bit suspect, it can't be beat, and I just loved it, and it made me feel warm and cozy watching it.
I actually enjoy more behind the scenes anecdotes or stories, trivia that John and Pat did not. It wasn't that they didn't like each other, hardly. It's just simply they had completely different ways of performing. And John was letter perfect on all of his dialogue, and Pat was more improv. And it took them a little while to get around that, but they did. And what an absolutely fascinating camaraderie they had, even though they're bantering or bickering at one another. They both work so well together.
Their interaction together paved the way for the animosity of Doctors meeting, of not quite getting on with each other and having that kind of argument, but also having that rapport and that kind of mutual trust and that kind of unsaid kind of affection for their other selves. And it all came from those two men bickering with each other. And I just loved it. And it just paved the way for all future Doctor crossovers.
Absolutely. And I remember in Day of the Doctor with John Hurt and the boys, as he called them, he had that more irascibility with the two of them. And I remember Stephen Moffat saying that Tennant and Smith got along so well, it was like Laurel and Laurel and Hardy forgot to show up.
It's kind of interesting. We said kind of last time about Moffat's choice because Eccleston wasn't coming back and McGann would have been too nice to be a war doctor. You kind of wonder how that would have worked, because in essence, yes, Paul McGann is older than Tennant and Smith, but character-wise, he's still very young. He looks young still. I don't know how old Paul McGann is, to be honest, but I think it needed that older doctor to kind of bring those two into line. I think with McGann being with Tennant and Smith, or Eccleston with Tennant and Smith, it would have been flatter.
Believe it or not, because I think the Five Doctors is stronger because Tom is not in it.
Yes.
And I think, as much as I fell in love with Chris Eccleston's incarnation of the Doctor, watching those 2 episodes from Russell T's first season, I think Day of the Doctor was stronger without Chris, only for the fact that I agree the War Doctor needed to be an intermediary between
the seasoned older
right. And
man.
We know from that's right. And we know from Rose that he's newly regenerated, because he talks about his ears, so
it was serendipitous that Eccleston wasn't coming back and McGann wouldn't have been suitable, and which kind of takes away from the 3 Doctors. But sorry, you were saying, interrupt you there.
But this brings us back around to the 3 Doctors.
Yes.
Sadly, Hartnell could not participate, but he did in a limited. But I thought his limitations accented the story.
Yeah, because it's like, then what? That banter that Troughton and Pertwee kind of fell into very, very quickly and very easily
Mhm.
would have been watered down with Hartnell's presence, his known irascibility as a doctor,
Mhm.
and probably as an actor as well, I suppose. Perhaps we weren't aware of that irascibility in 1973, but certainly the fans knew the irascibility of his character. But it's interesting to kind of think as well that in 1973 there had been no repeats of Doctor Who. Nobody had seen Troughton for 3 years.
Mhm.
Nobody had seen Hartnell for
6 no.
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years, yeah. So seeing these doctors back after all that time must have been phenomenally exciting.
Absolutely.
There's a scene where Pertwee and Katie have gone on through the black hole,
Mhm.
and Troughton and the brig are in the TARDIS,
Mhm.
and Hartnell says, "Turn off the force field." And Troughton says, "Yes, I'm going to do that." "Why are you going to do that?" the brig says. "Because he
Mhm.
told me to."
Me too.
And I have a lot of faith. I've had a lot of faith in his advice.
Yes.
I'm thinking, hang on a minute. That tells me that
Uh-huh.
they've met before.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Mhm.
So where,
Yep.
when? And has anybody else picked this up? Is there any fan fiction out there or that's kind of linked to this? There must be a BBC novel out there that's got that, that's referenced
Surely.
that.
If not, maybe you should write one.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, they don't like them anymore, do they? No, you've got to be in the know now. Got to be part of the
that's
elite
right.
to write a BBC. Yeah, they don't
Okay.
have open submissions anymore.
Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
so what else can we glean from your viewing of the Three Doctors? I have actually I'll point out, I've actually watched that with Sergeant Benton himself.
Hmm.
It's the only time I've sat down with John
Uh-huh.
and watched an episode all the way through. And a friend of mine wanted to watch it as well.
Yeah.
And it was that was quite fun.
Hmm. How was John's opinion of it? Was he?
Oh, he loved it.
Yeah.
He absolutely loved it. I don't recall why his part got expanded. If it was supposed to be Fraser Hines was supposed to be in it and he couldn't at the last minute. I think that is the reason why. I'd have to go back and.
Okay, that's interesting.
But actually, again, if that is the case, whoever was supposed to take on much of that role, I thought it fit John Levine's portrayal of Benton perfectly. Absolutely perfectly.
Definitely. And again, had Fraser been in it, it would have taken away that bond between Pertwee and Troughton.
That's correct.
You kind of look at, I suppose what they did with the two doctors is they took Troughton out the equation completely and had Fraser with Colin, which was a great mix, and with Nicola as well. But it's with the Five Doctors, of course, he was a memory, which then leads us to the question: how did Hartnell and Troughton's incarnations have contact with the Time Lords when, as far as we were told, up to before the War Games, they had no contact with them? So I just love all that conflict, and we're sitting here
58 years into a series.
It's moaning about Chibnall rewriting the series canon, and they did it then.
Yes.
And so why do we have issue with it now, but we don't have issue with it watching a 50-year-old episode?
Well, perhaps it was an established canon by the time we started watching it, so it was already there. I don't know. So everything seemed to fit.
Yeah, in that case, then, in 10 years' time, people far younger than us, far prettier than us, will accept.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, no, that's true. Will accept the Timeless Children and the Division storyline as being absolutely fine.
Sure. Unless in episode 6 something happens to completely
It was all a dream.
it was all a dream.
Yeah, I kind of it is kind of it is interesting to kind of make that comparison, looking at the Three Doctors and kind of looking at how they altered the series history at that point. But even think about it as well, what they did with the War Games. They suddenly introduced this whole kind of hierarchical society of Time Lords, and only 7 years before, we were told we don't know who this Doctor is. So what is the difference? There is no difference when you think about it, what Chibnall was doing as to what Terrence Dicks did.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Chibnall is just spreading out. It's like buttering a bit of toast, but the butter's getting a bit thin. is the analogy I could make here.
I like that. Or perhaps the Marmite's getting clumped on top.
Yes, when I love Marmite. But yeah, it's getting a bit clumped. In fact, I had Marmite for a snack a moment ago before we started the podcast.
This episode of
sponsored by.
Sponsored by.
Oh dear. So, Ambassador of Death.
Marmite, you either love it or you hate it.
You hate it, and I love it.
Yeah.
So your choice for ambassadors. Why did you choose that one?
A couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, the last time I watched that episode was probably, 18 years ago.
Wow.
A friend of mine had never watched.
When you were 1 year old. Wow.
I know, isn't it? and I don't age that much.
Exactly.
Actually, I do, and I'm like, my God, he's had a hard life if he looks like this. Just two. A friend of mine wanted to watch Doctor Who from start to finish,
mm-hmm.
which actually I'm a little jealous of, because he literally started from Unearthly Child and watched it all the way through. And the other reason I watched it was we watched Rose,
mm-hmm.
or I watched Rose the week before, which was a reboot
mm-hmm.
to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so was the first season of Pertwee's first season. It was, in essence, a reboot.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go back and settle my thought process. I've always heard people say, oh my gosh, Capaldi, he's so irascible, or Colony, so brisk. They give all these negative traits, and I think they get locked on the happiness of Tennant, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that all of them should be like that. Let me tell you, Pertwee did not suffer fools gladly. I mean, he was just as short-tempered with anyone, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. He was very he was
authoritarian.
Quite a leader. Yeah.
You kind of look at the Three Doctors, and that moment when Omega kind of threatens him and says, you will stay on and take my place. The anger that Pertwee has in his eyes, he's just it's such a lot of people kind of thought, well, I suppose even himself, Pertwee thought that who is Jon Pertwee? Who can, I'm asked to play the Doctor as Jon Pertwee, but who is Jon Pertwee? Because as we know, Pertwee hid behind all these voices and characters in the Navy Lark and so on and so forth. So it was quite as I understand it, quite a moment that Pertwee was then asked to act as himself. And you think, well, was this Pertwee? I know that you've met him a few times, haven't you?
Yes.
Was he that irascible, or was he genial, or did you kind of feel that he had that authority figure about him?
He did have that authority to him. It was just his presence. But he was such a kind man, a fair man. And you could see that about him just in the room with him. I'll never forget my uncle. I was 16 years old, and my uncle actually took me to see him. And my uncle didn't know anything about Doctor Who, so but he he grabbed Jon Pertwee by his arm. He goes, "Doc, what do you think of Columbus, Georgia," or something like that? And he didn't bother him. He says, "Well, I'm doing quite well. I just am looking forward to meeting my public here in a few moments." Didn't faze him at all. Just a sweet, sweet man. As much as I love the new series theme, and I love the 13th Doctor's
it's
theme,
beautiful,
absolutely beautiful. I can't remember the name of the composer.
Sigun Akinola.
Okay, I apologize. I enjoy. He's such a departure from Murray Gold, which I think was needed. But
yes.
As much, and oh my goodness gracious, I own practically all of Murray Gold's soundtracks. I think he was brilliant. As Russell T once said, he's not afraid to go there. And I'm a Wagner fan, so hey.
Yes. There you go, absolutely. Aren't we all? But Sigun Akinola's theme, and I've got the 2 silver screen soundtracks of the 13th Doctor's first 2 years, and when I played, you didn't quite hear it to its full extent in the series. But when I heard that piece of music standalone coming out of my hi-fi, I'm thinking, this is just possibly the best piece of music ever written for Doctor Who. And I've always said to myself, and everybody else is willing to listen to me, now we've got people listening out there on the podcast, 2 things that Chibnall did absolutely right was the logo and Sigun Akinola. He got those 2 absolutely spot on, and that theme that Sigun wrote for her, is mind-blowing.
It is. And I'm not finding any cues that really stand out to me in this series. However, another segue, we both enjoyed episode 4, Village of the Angels.
Which I incorrectly said last time as Valley of the Angels. It's Village of the Angels. Yes, so we both unanimously, if you two of us could be unanimous, loved Village of the Angels. And then we came to Survivors of the Flux, and I'm thinking, because it was based a lot on the Division and the whole kind of pre-Hartnell incarnations, which we've both agreed didn't quite work or doesn't quite work for us. So I was struggling with that unfolding or developing of that storyline, thinking, okay, right, well, why is it a case of Chibnall saying, this is my era, so fuck you, this is what I'm going to do? That's what it feels like to me sometimes. That I've written it now, and there's nothing you guys can do about it. So no, sometimes that's what it feels like with his writing, that he's really doing it just to say, I'm in charge. I'm sorry for swearing on the podcast. It feels like he's doing it just to say, like, I'm in charge.
Do that again.
Yeah. I'm in charge. And I'm in charge, and nothing you can bloody well do about it. So if you want to sit there and rot in your forums and argue about it till Kingdom Come, and then try and work out if Russell's going to change it all back again when I've left, be my guest. That's my opinion when I'm feeling angry at Chibnall's writing.
Well, I'll have to say that as I watched the episode, I was glued to it. But I wasn't necessarily glued to it
as you were the week before.
Correct. Mm-hmm. I was glued to it like, you better well explain this. This better be good. And
it was that whole lingering, so tell me who I am then. I'll tell you in a minute. No, just tell me now. That bugged me. That I know it's teasing the audience, teasing us as fans, because you want to know who the hell she actually really is. And this is now her mother, in essence. At least mother by being raised by her. And I was thinking to myself, okay, right. So we've now met the Doctor's foster mother.
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean to the series? Does this dampen the whole idea of Doctor Who? As to the question, who is the Doctor? The question you've been running from all your life. To me,
across the void, beyond the mind.
Yeah, exactly. Is Chibnall just making a point, like I've said, that this is my show now, and I'm going to do what the hell I like with it? But then all of a sudden, the camera panned around to the fob watch.
Yes, yeah.
I thought, okay, right. So this is a Time Lord invention.
Yep.
And in that fob watch are her memories.
Mm-hmm.
And the trailer we saw, the fob watch opens.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was watching it, I was very up and down, thinking, no, I don't like this. Oh, I like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like the fact we're talking about Division. I like the Bell and the Vinder storyline. That's great. I'm enjoying that again. But I'm not liking the fact that the principal characters still talking to themselves. The exposition is coming out themselves. That, to me, that's sloppy writing. But that cliffhanger made me want to watch it next week and think, okay, I need to know who she is.
Mm-hmm. It worked.
And that's what's really bugging me about this year, because like you, we came into the season reluctantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reluctantly enjoying it.
Yes. He can make it all better next week.
Or we can make it.
I think he has the power to do that. Yeah. Now whether he takes it or not, I don't know.
And the whole kind of thing of Chibnall not listening to the critics, not reading the bad reviews, I think he has, in a big way.
He could have. I was just flashing back to his interview. Perhaps some YouTubers are not familiar with Chris Chibnall, because he was an enormous fan of the show as a child, and he was quite critical, even appearing on some show complaining about the Trial of the Time Lord series, and it can be found on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
So,
in fact, I think it's actually even on the Trial of a Time Lord box set.
Yes, it is. And I just think of that often. Like, wow, if you've been wanting to do your thing to this for a long time.
Yeah, you kind of look at it and think, this is kind of a big master plan. It kind of comes back to the whole Cartmel master plan, the Andrew Cartmel master plan, whatever that actually ever was. And I must ask him one day what that really was.
Perhaps you can ask him to come and tell us.
Yeah, I'll see what he says. He may well be. Yeah, he might say yes. Well, if we're lucky. But yeah, I was always think that this is his version of the Cartmel master plan, where Andrew Cartmel had the whole idea. He was seeding in the show the idea of the other, and then Lady Painfort, Doctor Who. Have you never wondered who he was, where he came from? I know there's a lot of those scenes were cut, so I think even then there was something happening that was implying the Doctor was more than just a Time Lord. And
sure,
but to me that was Hartnell.
Yeah,
it wasn't anything else. It was Hartnell was this, this mysterious kind of almost godlike figure that gave up his roots and went on the run. That's how I kind of envisioned that whole Cartmel master plan, that he was always talking about the first Doctor. And I think Chibnall was just taking it that one step further, or perhaps a million steps further, and given us hundreds, thousands, a lot of previous incarnations. And I'm slowly, begrudgingly and reluctantly again, coming around to accepting it. Because nothing we can do about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
But there's something Russell T can do about it.
That's very true. That's very true. Now, I was kind of thinking as well, why I'm so protective over this show. Do you know why you're so protective over the show?
Yes, because obviously for the the nostalgic sake, but it goes back to what Stephen Moffat said. It's the same show, and I think that it's such a broad show with its ability of storytelling. I don't see why you have to keep deepening this mystery to the point that you're diluting the character. It dilutes it to me. I mean, there's to me, the first Doctor is Hartnell, and darn it, that's it. I think there's so much more mystery to the character that they could do, and not have gone the way that Chibnall has taken. But I was, when what's the character's name? I can't remember character names. His the Doctor's mother's name.
No idea.
No. Where she was saying that the Flux is basically destroying all the universes, and we're just basically plopping one into the other, condensing them, and just so I was thinking back to all those epic ends of Russell T's and Moffat's, and I thought, okay, well that's a different epic end to a series of that's the way things usually run. And I rather liked that, and I thought that makes sense. But the character itself, I don't think you need to dampen it.
So let's bring this to a close tonight then, and we will watch Flux episode 6, and then we will watch our nostalgic episodes.
Absolutely.
And then we'll go from there, and then we'll have to wait for New Year's Date's episode.
Right, but we will continue. We'll be the lifeline to future Who. How's that?
Absolutely. There we go.
Yeah, we'll be the go-to Who.
The go-to Who. Go to Who.
Go to Who.
Go to hell. Go to Who. Go to hell. Fantastic. Well, it's goodbye from me, Terry.
And so long, ciao, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara from Sid.
And we'll see you at the end of Series 13.
Our purpose is to amuse. Simply to amuse. Nothing serious, nothing political.
Understand?
No.
Sid and Terry's Doctor Who podcast was a shaken, not stirred production. Copyright 2021.